the writing gig on Tomb Raider, it wasn't called Angel of Darkness, and it was just called Next Gen, I think. So just, working title. I thought, oh, what a great opportunity. And that's what Tomb Raider, that's what Angel of Darkness has always meant to me, this tremendous opportunity to be creative. Because I've never had any shortage of ideas. I have ideas all the time. I don't understand, well, I do understand what people mean by writer's block, but I don't experience it, and I don't get it with ideas at all. I've got ideas crashing through my head all the time. It's like, I've explained it sometimes before, like it's trying to control this stampeding herd of horses. I've got lots of ideas that come in from different directions, all the different areas I've been interested in. So I knew I could put a lot of these ideas into Angel of Darkness, and if I could just bring it together, get a cohesive enough story to convince the other people in the company that this is where we needed to go. And I had been asked specifically to create something new and groundbreaking, whilst not jettisoning all the best parts of Lara and the Tomb Raider franchise. So that was my attempt to do that. So opportunity, fantastic opportunity. And the first year was great. I mean, hard work, but great. I had to familiarise myself with all the background information, all the material and the dialogue style and everything else. And I hadn't played the games, but I did all the research material. And I didn't need to know how to play the games. I needed to know about the research material, the story, the names, the characters, the settings, the sort of milieu, how the Tomb Raider universe worked, because I thought I could bring something quite unique to it. And I knew what it was I wanted to do with that. So I set off, and of course I'd not worked at that pressure before. I'd written my own first novel, The Cappadocian Angelus, which is a massive thing about travelling through Turkey and the presence of angels there and the Nephilim and all sorts of stuff. Never been published, and it's still, any publishers out there, just as an opening for you. But so I had all this information at my fingertips, and I was able to work quite a lot of that in, the angels, the Nephilim, all the stuff that's to do with the Angel of Darkness. And it was just such a great opportunity. But I'd not worked at the intensity I needed to work at for core. I'd been working at my own, I used to put in 8 and 10 hour writing days as a writer. So I knew I had the stamina, I knew I had the language control, the skills, I knew I could write dialogue, which I'd done, professionally as well. But the intensity of it, and actually having to sell my ideas all the way along the line to the other members of the team and to the other people in the company, was a completely different challenge, because when you're writing a novel, you are essentially pleasing yourself and an internal audience, whereas here I had an external audience, so to speak, that I had to bring along on the ride with me and convince them these ideas work. These ideas can scan for 3 games. I've got the ideas worked out in sketch form for 3 games, but for this game we do this. And of course, everybody's familiar with the story. I'd written too much even for the first game, so we had to cut Cappadocia out and so on. And I was learning all the time, not just learning how to deal with other team members and be part of a team, but how to deal with certain people and how to avoid other people, because there were definitely people to avoid in that situation. It's always the case when you're working in an industrial situation. So it was very, very intense, and I learned a heck of a lot. And what I learned has served me in subsequent writing. I can now focus for much longer periods of time handling large amounts of data. I'm not a massively technical person, but I have a lot going on in my head, and it's useful to be able to departmentalize that. And what I used to do with the Tomb Raider material, I would write all the ideas down, so everything was out of my head. It was tangible and referable back to. There's a good bit of English. I could refer back to it, but all this other stuff was still crashing around in my head. So I was writing all these notes, jotting all these notes down, and I had lots and lots and lots of pages of rough notes. And then I would type up the best elements of those and create a cohesive story. So this was great learning for me. So I was kind of learning on the job. I knew I could handle dialogue. I've always felt very comfortable working on dialogue. It's a great way to get characters and story moving. So yes, it was a learning process for me. And also how to defend myself from criticism and adverse opinion. and people with other strongly expressed opinions that didn't agree with mine, and try and keep the thing focused and coherent and get to the end so that the story actually worked. So yeah, great opportunity, and I felt I grew as a writer in doing that. And the subsequent work I did on my own novels after that, I'd already written one of the novels for my series, The Shadow Histories, and I wrote the second one after I finished at Core and brought those, and polished those up with the skills I'd refined and learned. So it was a great learning opportunity, as well as just being a creative opportunity. And I think that's what Angel of Darkness is proving to be for other people. They're seeing it now. The young people are coming to it and saying, what's all the fuss? Being fired up by the ideas in Tomb Raider, and it gives them the opportunity to become creative in their own ways, as writers or designers or artists or musicians or whatever it is. So yes, a great learning opportunity. If you were to ask me what pieces of music do you like listening to best of all when you're writing, well, it's difficult to choose. The thing I've played most is Blade Runner. I've played that, I must have played that thousands and thousands of times over the years, because that gets me into my creative space mood, and works perfectly. But then of course I listen to lots and lots of other things. Old rock, 60s, 70s rock, 80s rock, classical, ambient sounds, instrumentals, a lot of instrumentals. I've got a lot of very, very popular female vocalists that I like, but I can't listen to those when I'm writing. It does, the very fact the words are going on, even though I'm not consciously listening to it, it kind of interrupts the word flow when I'm writing. So it's instrumental. But no, I just love all of the Angel of Darkness music. I just think it's so, the moment it comes on and it just starts, it evokes all the best feelings and memories of mine from being at Core and working on Angel of Darkness. It comes back in a way, you pick up a page of script or dialogue, and it doesn't do the same. When I start reading it, I start getting excited. But immediately with Pete's music, bang, I'm back in that space again, and it's lovely to do that. I've been playing some of Pete's early music while I've been doing this Curtis Journal thing, so that's been very helpful. Gets me back in that original 2000 to 2003 space in my head. Yeah. I've been asked on a number of occasions what my actual creative process is, and I've used the image of a stampeding herd of horses. Those are my waking hours. I have ideas all the time. It's almost like an Asperger's thing. I just have so many ideas. I've read so many books. I've read so many comics. I've seen so many films. I've been to so many interesting places in the world, and it's like a big boiling pot of ideas all the time in my head. And I love it. It's not a problem in any way. The difficulty comes in trying to harness that and negotiate all that material into something which is coherent and tells a story. And this is the same with artwork, my own artwork, but mostly with the writing. And what I have at home, I have a working studio at home, a very small room at home. I have models and toys and images on the walls all around me. Lara and other projects I've worked in. I have two computers. I have a standalone computer which I don't connect to the internet at all. I do all my writing on that, and it never has the chance of catching a virus or being infected or whatever. So that's my standalone. I do all my writing on that, and then I transfer everything across to my internet connected laptop by flash. Never save anything back. It's absolute shut up. It's my one guarantee that I will always have something I'm able to work on, because that used to frighten me at one point, that if I get a virus and I can't write, if I couldn't write so much in a day, I would become very uneasy and edgy. It would become a problem. So that's one organisational thing I have. Another thing is I have a set of 3 kitchen timers to the side, and I set each of them for an hour, and I have a plastic container full of coloured ping pong balls, And when the first time, because they never go off at quite the same time, when the first timer goes off, I put a ping pong ball into another container. Or if I forget to do that, the second one will go off fairly soon. And if I'm still involved so much I forgot, I'm still sunk in the thing I'm right, the third one will go off and I think, all right. So rewind them all, put them back. So I can keep myself on an hourly check. And sometimes I'll look over and there's 5 or 6 ping pong balls there, which means I've been in the room working for 5 or 6 hours. And it's a good check for me to think, I need to get out and have a walk now, or I need to go and have a shower, or I need to eat, or other basic function. I just need to get out and do something. So I became very disciplined like that when I was working on my first novel. And I found that very useful when I was working on Angel of Darkness as well. The other thing I've always said, and I used to teach and encourage people to write. I used to do writing classes. I would say, it's no good an idea being in your head. It's got to be somewhere where somebody else can see it, or even better, where you can see it. Because if you get 3 good ideas in a day, guarantee you'll lose 2 of them if you don't write them down. So write every single thing down, even if it's on a scrap of paper or a handkerchief or the peak of your cap, or write it down. And then at the end of the day, or have a couple of hours at the start of the next day, just making sure it's all legible and put it. And I've got trays about that deep, just full of decades worth of ideas and notes, and they're all good ideas. It's a very good exterior representation of what my head is like. And it was when I was doing the Angel of Darkness, I had all these pages which, as we've already mentioned, have been they've been put up for sale and bid for and so on. And that's a very good representation of what goes on in my head, doing sketches, doodles, make sure everything's down. I don't know, would you call that obsessive or professional or thorough? Let's say thorough. It's a very thorough way of working. So in the last 30, 40 years, I don't think there's many ideas that have got away from me that I've not recorded in some form or other somewhere. And I used to find that much better writing them down rather than recording them. Somebody gave me a voice recorder on one occasion, but then I would have to listen to it and write it down. So I just, I stopped doing that, just make sure I write all the stuff down. The other thing is I have separate folders. So with the Angel of Darkness, I would have a folder with all the characters. I would have a background history on each of the characters, which I would first write up in rough notes. Then I would type them up, because in typing, something happens. There's a form of clarity that comes in. I don't always put it in proper grammatical English, but it's there in proper note form, and it's legible for other people. So lots of folders, lots of recorded information. And then I used to have big charts, big A3 charts like this, and I'd do flow charts. And I had to do that to get the idea of the 5 obscura paintings, the 5 obscura engravings, and the 5 sandglyphs that were inside that. Keep that clear in my head. And I thought, if I'm keeping it clear in my head, I can show these diagram charts to people in the company and they can see immediately, bang, right, we see what you're talking about now. So I found that very useful as a way of communicating to the rest of the team as well. But also it was a very good aid memoir for myself. And I got used to doing a lot of these diagram flow charts. I did them in Word, or I think it was Word or something, I can't remember now. So yes, record everything, write everything down, and then be prepared to reject stuff. A lot of stuff, a lot of ideas I came up with for Curtis and Lara, and so lots of ideas there, but they didn't all fit into the story. But they're not wasted or lost, they're still recorded there. So nothing gets wasted, nothing gets lost, everything's recorded. And I can go back, as I have been doing in subsequent years, now being merely a fan of Angel of Darkness, not being employed in any professional way, so I can do fan fiction and I can go back and look at the early stuff and I can write all the, anything I want. As I have been doing, I've been expanding the whole idea of Angel of Darkness story continued. So it's, then the next story is pretty much there, involving Morgau and Curtis and Lara having fights, and eventually Morgau and Curtis trying to reconstruct the Lux Veritatis, and and you know, because it lost its way, like most organisations, most religions and political parties and organisations lose the way. The Lux Veritatis lost its way, and they start trying to reform the Lux Veritatis into something that it should have been, as it was originally. So all that material is there, and it's why I really appreciate the opportunity to share a lot of this material with Ash, with yourself, and get that material out there, because if it sparks of anybody else's creativity, as far as I'm concerned, it served its purpose. But I do worry about my children when I pass on, and there's all this stuff, and what are they going to do? So I need to be very clear where I want all this stuff to go. Otherwise it'll just get dumped in a skip somewhere. So I've been recording a lot of stuff on flash drive. I record everything on at least 3 separate locations. I heard somebody in a science lecture once saying, data doesn't exist and isn't safe if it isn't in at least 3 locations. If it's only on your hard drive, it's not safe. If it's on a flash drive, you've got a chance of it surviving. It's got on 2 flash drives. There you are, there's your 3 locations. And I very much believe in saving stuff onto flash drive and letting people that I trust very much have that information. So they've got it. And if anybody's interested in the future, yeah. Discipline is very important. I used to make sure, when I was writing the first novel, The Cappadocian Angelus, which is still unpublished, and looking for a publisher, so it's still there, and I made sure I did at least 6 hours writing, and it very often went into 8, sometimes 10 hours a day, and I was doing that 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. And it's a massive piece of work, and I got that finished within, I think, 9 months. I'm very, very pleased with that. And I had to prove to myself that I could complete a project on my own with no outside support or influence or structure. And I did that, and I thought, yes, I know I can do it now, which was why when I went to Core, and they said, can you write a story for us? With complete confidence, I'd never written a game story before, but with complete confidence I could say yes, and I knew I could, because I knew I could adapt the skills I'd got to writing for games. So discipline is very important. And being prepared to take rejection and obscurity. That can be the killer for a creative person or a writer. You know, I was talking recently to somebody about having made films or projects, and you're hoping that people are going to take them up and see what you're talking about, and you get reviewed by people who have no idea of the cultural mass of information that you've put into something. They don't get it, and so they say, oh, this isn't very good. What they mean is, I don't like it, or I don't understand it, or I'm a stupid ignoramus because I don't get what this is about, and other people seem to think it's exciting, but I don't, so I'm going to say it's no good. You know, that's you can get reviewers like that, you can get trolls like that, you can get people on the internet who should be taking the medication and locked up. They're all, you know, there's a lot of stuff. And the discipline of working, knowing that what you're doing is the best you can do. It may not be better than everybody else's, but if it's the best you can do, what else can you do? That's it, you know? And have the faith in yourself and the confidence. And if you're not motivated to work hard and have the discipline, then at least jot the notes down, because at some point you may find, oh, I'm ready to write that story now. Even if it's just a short story, I'm ready to write that story now, or I'm ready to commit to that project, and you'll have the information. So yeah, be creative, have fun, take the knocks, develop the discipline, develop the skills, develop the drawing skills and the planning skills and the writing skills. And get 3 kitchen timers, because it's a great way of making sure you go to the toilet and have a drink.